and welcome to Connect, Engage, Collaborate, a podcast brought to you by the Tempe Police Department. And I'm your host, Patricia Rameriez. Today, I'm joined with the Chief of Tempe Police, Jeff Glover. Thank you so much for joining us today, Chief.
Thank you for having me.
If you could please share with us, what were the driving factors that led you to be a police officer?
So that's interesting. Quite honestly, I had no intention of ever getting into policing. It wasn't in my top 10 careers to get into. I'm a kid that was originally from LA, from Compton area. Didn't really think about policing as a pathway to success, to do anything. In fact, I even had, growing up, it was not a situation of having bad experiences with the police, but you deal with the trauma of others in, whether it be family, friends, or whatever, that explain to you about, their experiences with the police. And so I just sort of stayed away from it. But what ended up attracting me to the profession was I ended up in a position with the Phoenix Police Department, and it was initially Parks and Recreation. So I got hired by the Phoenix Parks and Recreation. They end up transferring me into the police department on a grant program for a juvenile diversion program that they had in place. That program was really about being able to connect and engage with the youth, especially many of them that were coming in from LA. And as I started to interact with the police officers, I had to work closely with them. It was something that was transformational for me. I got an opportunity to really see police officers in a different light, to understand who they are, that they were just people, and to also see them do some really good things, especially when it came to youth engagement and how they treated and interacted with people. That was an attraction to me. And so after being around them for 4.5 years, I ended up, taking the test and getting on to a police department here locally.
It sounds like that definitely sat with you in terms of working with youth and having the opportunity. And have you only been with Tempe Police, or have you been with another department?
Yeah, so I started off as a test run, essentially was to test for the Mesa Police Department. And it just so happened that, it was an opportunity to take the test and see, really how I would do. My intention was to stay in Phoenix at the time, but Mesa picked me up to my surprise. And, I'm there testing with over 1,000 people, and it's for 30 positions that they have. And by the time that, the process was done, I was selected to be on that department. And so I, went through the academy there, and, it was a great experience. But my thing is I wanted to be in a place where I felt like I could be more useful, because my first duty area was going to be in Superstition out in Mesa. And at that time in the late 90s, there was really nothing out there. And I felt like, well, there really doesn't seem to be much of a pathway for me here. But it's a great organization. So nothing negative. It was just I wanted to do a little bit more, have more activity. And a friend told me about the city of Tempe. Didn't really know much about Tempe. Again, most of my time had been spent in Phoenix. And so by the time I come over and do a quick ride along with one of my buddies, I fell in love. I went on Mill Avenue, saw all the activity. I'm like, this is where I need to be. This is awesome. And so I made the jump over to Tempe.
Can you explain, as the chief, what are some of the major challenges that comes with?
So being a chief of police it's challenging on various levels. So from professional level, it's challenging because you have to be able to be available and accessible to everyone. Your responsibility is to the entire organization. And when I mean the organization, I mean the entire city. So it's being able to balance the aspects of the needs for whether it be city management, city council, and the employees. The employees are obviously one of the most important cogs within the wheel because they keep things moving, and it's about being able to, provide the necessary resources for them to make them successful in their jobs. And that is a very challenging, thing to juggle sometimes. Um, when you're talking about, like life work balance, there's very little, unfortunately, because of the demand of the job. And so sometimes, it's challenging at home. So it's a very demanding job. And so, I have, three kids, and a wife. And they take up a lot of time because, obviously, when you are, you have a family, you have to be able to cater to their demands as well.
Yes.
And I've got little ones, and my 2-year-old runs the entire house. So I may be the chief here, but at home I'm not.
Okay.
I'm just that guy.
Yeah. Yes.
And my wife, is pretty much, setting the tone, in most cases, especially with the kids. And so it can be a little bit challenging. And so, you try to figure out, different ways of balancing that out. So that way, you can really be able to accommodate everybody's needs. But sometimes you have the moments where you're stretched pretty thin, but we make it work.
Good. And tell me, going back to the professional side, and I do want to ask you also on the personal side of that challenge, but sometimes there are misconceptions as to what you can do and what you can't do. And so can you tell me a little bit about those misconceptions specifically?
Wow. There's a lot there to unpack in terms of misconceptions, but I mean, a lot of times people and even sometimes the general public feels like, you can just, as the chief of police, you can wave a magic wand and you can just make everything happen. And it all happens right now, when that's really not the case. The reality is that, this isn't an episode of NCIS, so we can't finish your investigation within an hour. And sometimes, if they're not satisfied with that, I get the complaint.
Yes.
It may come all the way up to me. The other, issues is, we have unions, we have collective bargaining, which I work extremely well with our union president, Rob Ferraro. He's amazing. And we have a great relationship. And so I meet with he and the city manager, and, I cannot, dictate what a salary is going to be, but I can help advocate. But a lot of times, even the employees feel like, well, can't you just make this happen? And it's like, well, no, I don't. There's an MOU, a memorandum of understanding, that dictates exactly how much, you're going to make. And if you got steps plans and things of that nature. And so I assist, but it's not really my purview to actually drive it. But I'm there to advocate for the employees to ensure that they get, what they're asking for. And that becomes a part of the negotiation process.
Yeah. I think that's a key thing, is that, as you just said, you're there to advocate and you're there to listen and what you can do, you do, but it does come with its limitations.
It does.
And going back at home, I would say that you are very supported at home, as you have to be in such a tough position as this. And so I'm giving credit to your family.
Well, let's give credit to my wife.
Yes. Yes.
Because she is amazing. She's an amazing woman. And
that's wonderful.
I could not do any of these things without her support. And so thank you, Tracy.
Yes. Yes.
You're watching.
I was trying to give her a shout out.
Shout out to Tracy.
Okay.
But yes, I couldn't do any aspects of this job without her being able to really support, everything that I do, because, the sheer volume of work that comes through that I deal with on a day-to-day basis, it takes up a lot of time, and she's very patient. And so I really do appreciate the support that she provides me.
Oh, that's wonderful. Would you say that it's normal or pretty routine to go from one department to another department? Or would you say that most of us stay the entire time with Tempe?
I would say that I would think the normal thing is for people to sort of stay in one agency. Occasionally you'll have those that decide that, hey, this is probably not the best fit for me, and it's usually not the department as it is the person. Everybody has a preference. And so, like, for me, my preference was to be in a smaller city where I felt like, I could do a little bit more and have more opportunity, even though it was a smaller agency. In the smaller agency, I learned that you can do a lot of different things very quickly and learn,
Absolutely.
in a very fast way, to be able to, navigate, whether it be going through different special assignments, whether it's vertical movement in terms of growth and opportunity and promotion. Um, to me, a mid-sized agency is a great agency of being able to really get into a lot of different areas of the department so you can just really grow and learn.
Yes. And it's nice that we get to know one another, wouldn't you say, in a smaller agency? I mean, you and
Absolutely.
I go way back.
Yes, we
But it's
do.
it's really nice in terms of building those relationships in the department and outside of the department. Thank you for sharing that. Can you tell me what are the main philosophies of how you police?
So my main philosophy, it comes down to what we call our 3 C's, and that's community policing. We have to be engaged in the
Mhm.
community and be able to, really understand who it is that we are connecting with
Yeah.
and understand how do they want to be policed. It's not about us pressing upon the policing philosophy or model on the public, because we do need to understand exactly what that looks like to them.
Mhm.
And we have to be able to do that in a fair and equitable way, no matter what section of the city you live
Yes.
in. We need to be able to hear from individuals that want to come forward and really really talk about, hey, these are some of the things that I am concerned with, and these are the things that we need for
Yes.
our police department to be successful in our eyes. And so
Yes.
it's almost like a report card. And you have your, the other C, which is our community engagement, because it's really important to ensure that we are proactively engaging with our community, whether it be different programs, whether it be partnering with nonprofit organizations. It's always important to make sure that we keep that connection, because it's about building our relationships.
Mhm.
It's about being able to bridge ourselves to that point where we can have civil conversations with community members, even when we disagree. We can agree to disagree, but we are doing that from a stance of respect.
Mhm.
And then lastly, our last C is really about our collaborative leadership. And so, in order to lead these initiatives, you have to be able to collaborate and bring these individuals together, whether it
Yes.
be internally or externally. So, when I put together a traffic safety plan for the community to be able to create safety measures within our community, I bring our community members to the table. So that way they sit in there with the officers. They're discussing, what that actually looks like. What makes them feel safe. Do we need more CPTED, crime prevention through environmental design, as we build out certain areas of our city and our roadways. These are some of the things that they want to know about. And
Yeah.
so we should have them a part of the process. So that collaborative leadership piece helps us with the buy-in from our community members. And it also helps us as a team,
Mhm.
because as our team grows and the department grows, the leadership also gets to see that it's all sort of demonstrated from the top down all the way up and then bottom up, because we also include our officers within those conversations as well.
Thank you for all that. I'm also a community member. I live in the city of Tempe. It's a wonderful city, and also working here. And as I listen to all of that, I'll admit I love your 3 C's. Can you help me a little bit? What inspired you in the direction that you were able to come to that?
I think what inspired me really comes down to mission and purpose. What is our
Mhm.
mission and our
Mhm.
purpose? And it comes back to, if you're going to lead an organization, you have to really try to truly understand exactly how does that message filter all the way down
Mhm.
to the line level, all the way down to, not just the officers, but it's also about our professional staff members. They
Yes.
have to be on the same page. They have to understand what it is that we're trying to do.
Yes.
We are customer service representatives. And I know sometimes people look at me when I say we're customer service representatives, and they're like, didn't think
Mhm.
of it that way. And it's
Mhm.
like, but truly we are.
Mhm.
I mean, we are here for a public service, meaning that we are here basically, essentially doing a customer service type job. And so if you look at it at that and from that standpoint, it's really about being able to deliver quality service. And that
Mhm.
comes back to making sure that everybody involved is focused on the mission. And so the three C's sort of helps us get to that guiding point
Mhm.
of when we're trying to reduce harm in Tempe and the fear of crime. That's what it comes down to. It comes down to staying on mission and being focused on that, and that you remember your purpose in
Yes.
getting into these jobs in public safety was about, you raised your hand one day saying, "Hey, I want to help people."
Can you tell me, have you heard any feedback from the community to help uh, so that you know that you are on track and that this is all positive and working for us?
Yeah. So, in fact, I can pull up a recent example community meeting over the weekend. One of our council members hosted a breakfast, council member Burdetta Hodge. And in the breakfast with Burdetta, we set up a panel discussion between myself, fire, human services, even this one of the assistant superintendents of our school district. And so it was a great conversation because we got to sort of get feedback from many of our community members. There was at least 50 people there. And one of the things that I took away from that conversation is that what we are doing in terms of our customer service is working.
Mhm.
The feedback was really good because there was a lot of conversation about, well, back in maybe 2018,
Mhm.
we felt this way about the police department, but now because of the initiatives that have been taking place, we feel more comfortable because you guys are doing these extra steps. You're
Mhm.
involving us in your training. You're involving us at the table when you're putting on traffic safety plans. The involvement that we have had in terms of including our community members in some of our initiatives has gone over extremely well. And so, like our transformational policing model training, where we have half of the training group is officers, the other half are community members, that come in and they actually train with the officers. That is very groundbreaking in terms of being able to build those bridges and build up relationships, getting the why behind the
Mhm.
reasons why we do things the way we do, and but also for the officers to learn the history. So we go over historical perspective, but then at the same time, it also has to hit home here in Tempe and to provide the historical perspective for Tempe. That's why we have those community members sitting in those seats. And it really does help being able to have that kind of engagement and give and take between community members and law enforcement to really in that shared approach of how do we make ourselves better.
Yes. And I participated in that, and that was wonderful. It was inspiring, and I left on that day of training, and I was pretty motivated. So I do thank you for that. And if you can tell me, what is the most challenging thing about policing in Tempe?
The most challenging thing about policing Tempe is that, Tempe is a very complex and diverse city. And so you have people from all walks of life here because you have Arizona State University, the
Mhm.
largest campus in the nation. You have international students. You have very much from elderly to college age kids, and so it sort of spans the entire gap, and really, it is a unique city, and so it brings its own set of complex challenges. And we are landlocked, so our growth is vertical and it's very dense, and we are continuing to grow.
Mhm.
And so one of the challenging things is how do we keep up with that growth? How do we keep up with the level of service that our community is accustomed to having? And that is a challenge for me right now in terms of being able to hire and recruit, train the next
Mhm.
generation of employees, while at the same time, you have this growth, this boom that's happening within the city, and
Mhm.
you have to be able to keep up
Mhm.
and the issues of social justice. the issues of policing and its historical perspectives. It's a challenging time, right now in terms of this being able to bring people to the table to actually become a police officer. And it's not just, again, the officers as it is, you also have to hire the people that do the heavy lifting in the background, our professional staff members. They are so invaluable into the actual inner workings of the police department. And there's so many jobs that are there that is definitely a unique challenge that we deal with. And it all comes back to, again, how do we deliver the best service to our community?
Can you tell me a little bit about your team that helps you through those challenges? And do you mind sharing a little bit about that?
So, of course, I have my executive team, the
Hmm.
assistant chiefs. They are extremely, exceptionally well skilled and well versed and talented in being able to, carry out the vision, that I have, and that's a part of the role for an assistant chief is to be able to carry out the mission. And they know that, my heart is in customer service.
Hmm.
And that is our purpose is to be able to deliver quality, great service to our citizens here in Tempe. And so on a day-to-day basis, it's about being able to have conversations, be open and honest, connect. If I got an idea that sounds outlandish, they need to tell me,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
just as well as we have great conversations going back and forth on how to deliver that, but it's all in the spirit of how do we do better?
Yes.
And so the team is phenomenal. We have great employees here because actually, under that executive team, you have your commanders and your lieutenants, and everybody is doing the work that is needed to be able to get us to a place where I think that we will be able to deliver exceptional service. You look at citizen satisfaction scores, which we normally present somewhere in the 80s for our
Wow, that's
annual
high.
score, which is high.
Hmm.
But we also need to understand too that those scores sometimes go out to communities, that see us a lot, and
Hmm.
so for the underserved communities, we have to make sure that we're doing an exceptional job of connecting with them in order to make sure that, we're, doing what we're saying that we're doing. But then we want to make sure that the underserved communities that we have within our city is also getting the same level of service that everybody else is getting.
So, what I'm hearing you say is you want everybody to feel connected in our community, everyone to feel heard in our community. And that's a wonderful point. On a side note, I often will see you walk for coffee and you talk to people, you are relaxed. And I have driven by you, I've waved at you at times, but I'm very proud for what you are doing for our community and as our chief. So I thank you for that.
No, thank you.
Can you tell me why is it important to connect with many diverse communities in Tempe?
Well, as I said, when you have a city that is so uniquely placed like Tempe, ASU, the largest campus in the nation, they are
Mm.
now upwards to 140,000
Wow.
students. About 80,000 of those, somewhere give or take, are pretty much here localized within the city.
Mm.
And that is a broad spectrum of people, not to include just our residents, and that
Sure.
the city's population actually doubles in size during the day because of the industry and the growth. You have so many people coming in that you have to be able to connect almost on a regional level to be able to ensure that you are meeting your mark. And so, recently we have taken on sort of a cops and clergy program, where many police departments do that in a localized level where they connect with their um, faith based partners within their city. Well, I'm doing that across the entire valley because I want to connect with those that come into the city and do business here and or work and play. Because quite honestly, we know that many times for those that are faith based, they go back to their churches. And if
Mhm.
there's issues with the police, sometimes it goes to the pastors. And
Yes.
so we try to connect and engage with them and have conversations. So that way we can understand, okay, well, what is some of the issues that are concerns that you may have heard that may be specific to Tempe, or maybe another agency, but we need to be aware of it so we don't fall into some type of a landmine type situation and get ourselves into a situation that really is problematic for us, and it disrupts exactly what we're trying to do, because this is sort of an ecosystem. Everything that we're doing is almost like an ecosystem. Our police department works well with the fire department. We work well with human services, sanitation. We all are partners.
Yes.
And you have to be partners in this, and you have to be partners with city management and city hall. And we have really come together as a city to be able to look at how we deliver service in the best interest of our community.
Yes. Thank you. How do you promote dialogue between communities and the police?
It's as simple as a conversation. And, we do that, whether it be coffee with a cop, cops and clergy. It can be a number of different mechanisms that essentially allows for us to have those conversations. Obviously, we have a great partnership with Arizona State University and the police department. And so with the faculty and staff there, when there's opportunities to speak with the students, we take that opportunity. The athletic program, we have great, people. And I know that you'll be interviewing Denison Dawson and who's doing our recruitment efforts and who connects and engages with the student athletes and does such a tremendous job. And so it's about being able to take those opportunities that we have at our disposal and really partner. And that's what it's about, is partnerships and building relationships. And so when we have the opportunity, and we see different events that are going on that are, if somebody's inviting us to the table, then we have to take a seat. We have to be a part of it.
I like that.
You
Absolutely.
have to.
And would you say, have we always been this way, or do you feel that we are much more open to welcoming people to that table?
I would say that we've always been very welcoming to open people to that table. I think that's one thing that's unique about Tempe, is that we've always been good about challenging ourselves to get outside of our comfort zone, to have difficult conversations, to be able to really connect and engage, even when it may be at the worst moment. And we don't run, we don't hide. We come forward and we talk about it. When you look in past years, the various chiefs that were in place even prior to me, they usually would lean in to difficult conversations and putting together forums and having conversations with community, even if it didn't happen in this community. Yes. So that's something that I'm very proud of, at least from that legacy and that history.
Good. And tell me, why is it so important for the police department to have support from the community?
Well, that's essential.
Yes.
Quite honestly, we do this for our community. And so we want to be able to make sure that we're supported by the community. And that's why I say it's so important that you have to understand from a community member's perspective how they want to be policed. And so when you're able to sit down and have these kind of conversations with our community members, you get an idea, you get a feel for exactly where they're coming from. And then you can talk and have an open dialogue and sort of find out exactly where is our meet in the middle place. Because sometimes it's not going to be agreeable. Sometimes there's a lack of understanding as to what it is that we can and cannot do. And those opportunities are educational moments, whether it's a community member educating us or us educating the community. And that's how we make each other better.
As I was listening to you, I was going back to how we start in this profession. We start in the police academy. We start all the way from the beginning. I think that we tend to be very hopeful people. We have all these great ideas and we want to aspire to things. And now, as you are past 20 years in this profession, many great ideas. And tell me how you feel about all of that and the excitement in terms of where you are today as the chief for us.
Well, it's amazing. because quite frankly, I never would have thought that I would be a chief of police. I didn't even, as I had alluded to earlier, didn't even think that I'd ever be in law enforcement. And here I am today as the chief of police. And so, I'm just truly blessed to be able to have such a wonderful organization to work for and that has invested in me. Obviously, too, I've had a lot of support from community members and from the outside, the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, NOBLE. I have quite a few members through that group that, being here in Tempe, I was afforded the opportunity by previous chiefs to really build my relationships there and to seek the mentoring that I thought that was necessary. And it really did help me to develop and grow and to continue that maturation, as I'm growing up with the organization. And the reality, of the whole thing of being the chief and having that sink in, um, you know, it's just amazing because obviously, I retired February 2020, pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
7 months later, I'm getting a phone call and the city manager asked me about, hey, the chief's job's coming open and we're interested in wanting to have you back as the chief. And it just completely blew my mind because I never would have guessed that, that I would be coming back to sit in the seat to lead this organization. And it's, not only am I just proud to do so, it was very humbling for me to receive a phone call like that. Because at first I'm thinking, I'm getting a phone call from the city manager. I know I turned all my equipment in.
Right. What's this about? What's this about?
What is this about?
Right.
Something's up.
Oh.
So, to have all of this come full circle is truly a blessing and just amazing.
It is a blessing. And so I truly do thank you. I'm very proud of you. And you have made great changes here and we're continuing to grow. I would say that we're definitely continuing to grow. My last question for you is, what are the major takeaways you would hope listeners to gain with the episodes that are going to follow in this series?
So what I would want people to take away from it is that the Tempe Police Department is a highly competent, highly professional organization with really great men and women at the helm in the various roles, working in every capacity. They are human beings. We are men, women, brothers, sisters, grandchildren, children. And we're just like everybody else. And I think that when people understand the type of organization that we have here, how when you are here and you come into the Tempe Police Department, it's like a family. It's very much a family environment. And that's always been sort of the vibe, the kind of social environment that we've tried to foster in this organization. And I think that we're just getting better at it as time goes. And so I really want people to understand that, as you go on and you start, really learning about the organization and learning from the different people and the aspects of the jobs that they do, that this is a family. And the Tempe Police Department, along with the City of Tempe, is very much a family-oriented organization. It's a wonderful organization. And I just hope that they get a lot of value out of being able to listen to the various people that are going to speak on the different subject matters.
Yes, I'm very excited. And in that, what I also heard is we are a family and you would welcome people into that family.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, I thank you. I sincerely thank you for this time and for sharing. And again, I believe that your listeners, what you spoke will be heard. And I do thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.